He never meant to change the galaxy. All he did was offer food to a starving cub on a night drenched in ash and silence. The world had already forgotten him, a nameless human worker scraping out a life on a ruined colony. Yet in that moment, with trembling hands, he reached into the darkness and fed a creature everyone else had abandoned. That cub should have died. Instead, she survived. And in the years that followed, she grew. Now, decades later, the sky itself trembles. Colossal warships blot out the stars. Armies kneel in silence, and from the shadow of her throne steps an empress. The colony had no name worth remembering. To the corporations that once built it, this world was nothing but a failed investment, a scar of dust and wind abandoned to time. But to Owen, it was home. He wasn't a soldier, or a hero, or even a leader. He was a man with tired eyes, calloused hands, and the quiet determination of someone who refused to give up, no matter how thin the rations got or how cold the nights became. His mornings began with the same ritual, boiling what little water he could gather, rationing out half a loaf of bread, and whispering a promise to himself, just one more day. Children ran barefoot between the crumbling buildings, their laughter echoing through broken metal walls like fragile music. Neighbors patched roofs with whatever scraps they could find. The people of the colony had little, yet, in their own way, they were rich, because they still had each other. It was this fragile, stubborn spark of humanity that kept Owen moving. He worked in the salvage yards on the edge of the settlement, combing through twisted wrecks of forgotten ships. The husks were older than most of the people who lived there, metal giants scattered across the desert like bones of titans. Rumors said they weren't all human in origin. Some claimed the wrecks carried markings no earthborn eye could read, symbols carved with precision too sharp for human hands. Owen had never seen proof, but the whispers unsettled him all the same. And sometimes, late at night, when the winds shifted, the wrecks seemed to hum, a low vibration, like a memory waiting to awake. Still, life continued. People laughed, argued, traded scraps for tools. The colony endured, fragile but alive. It was on one such night, colder than most, that Owen heard it, a sound that didn't belong. At first he thought it was a child crying, thin and sharp, carried by the wind, but when he followed the sound through the alleys and out into the wasteland, he found something else entirely. Curled beneath the broken wing of an ancient ship was a creature, a cub, no larger than his forearm, its body trembling with hunger. Its eyes wide and luminous, fixed on him with a mixture of fear and desperation. It was no human child. Its skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the pale light of the moons. Its hands, small, clawed, delicate, scratched weakly at the dirt. Someone had left it there. Someone had abandoned it to die. Owen froze. Every instinct told him to turn back. Creatures like this weren't supposed to exist here. If the corporations found out, if word spread, there would be trouble. But then the cub whimpered, a sound so raw, so heartbreakingly fragile, that something inside him broke. He knelt, reached into his worn satchel, and tore the last piece of bread in half. Slowly he extended it. The cub hesitated, then snatched it with trembling hands, devouring it with desperate urgency. And for reasons Owen couldn't explain, he smiled. He didn't know what this creature was, or what danger it might bring. But he knew in that moment that he couldn't leave it behind. The night stretched long and silent as he carried the cub back toward the colony, its small weight pressing against his chest. Above them, the wrecks loomed like sleeping giants. For a moment, Owen could have sworn their shadows shifted, watching, waiting. The wind whispered through the ruins with a voice almost too deliberate to be natural. As if something far greater than Owen, greater than the colony, even greater than humanity itself, had just taken notice. 2 decades had passed. The colony endured, though many of its people did not. Owen had grown older, his hair thinned and grayed, his shoulders stooped with years of labor. But in the silence of the desert, in the nights when he thought no one listened, he sometimes still wondered about the cub. Until one day the sky split open. They came not as merchants nor explorers, but as conquerors. The first warship blotted out the sun. Black steel glided silently through the atmosphere, followed by a fleet of gleaming blades that shimmered like predators circling prey. Engines screamed against the sky as shadow swallowed the colony. The ground trembled, children screamed, and Owen, now old, could only stand and watch as Titans descended. Alien troops poured out, towering figures in obsidian armor, their faces hidden behind masks that hissed with every breath. They moved with practiced cruelty, dragging people into the streets, burning homes with a casual flick of their weapons. A voice boomed across the colony, broadcast through the sky itself. Kneel before the empire of Zarok. Resist and be erased. Fear spread like wildfire. Some dropped to their knees at once, trembling, clutching children close. Others stood frozen, unable to breathe. But Owen did not kneel. His legs shook, his body frail, but his eyes burned. Not again, he thought. Not while I breathe. The soldiers lined them up. A commander, his armor marked with jagged red scars, stepped forward. With a single motion, he raised his blade and struck down a man who had refused to bow. Blood spilled into the dirt. Terror choked the colony. Whispers turned to sobs. And yet, within that silence, defiance stirred. A young woman shouted, voice raw with fury, "We are not yours to claim!" She hurled a stone, striking the commander's mask with a sharp crack. For a moment, the world froze. Then the soldiers descended. Owen tried to move, tried to shield her, but his strength failed. He was thrown aside, landing hard against the rubble. The girl was dragged forward, forced to her knees. The blade rose again. But before it could fall, the air shuddered. A roar split the sky, deeper, louder, more terrible than thunder. The clouds burned red as a colossal ship descended, dwarfing even the invaders' fleet. Its hull glowed like molten steel, engines howling as if the void itself had been torn open. The alien troops froze. The commander stumbled back, every head turned upward in fear. The ship's ramp lowered, and she emerged. Clad in armor that shimmered like obsidian and fire, crowned with jagged silver, her eyes burned with a light both terrible and familiar. The soldiers fell to their knees, whispering a name like a prayer, like a curse. The Empress. Owen's heart stopped. He knew those eyes. He had seen them once before, wide with fear, hungry and trembling in the night. It was her, the cub. The Empress walked among them, her presence suffocating, every step radiating authority. Soldiers screamed. The air trembled with the thunder of 1,000 engines. The fleet of Vance blotted out the stars, their weapons igniting the sky like the wrath of gods. On the ground, colonists huddled in terror, watching their supposed savior collapse beneath chains they could not see. Zarya the Empress, the cub once fed by human hands, convulsed, her claws tearing deep furrows in the earth. Each tremor racked her body as though her very soul were being peeled away. Her soldiers stood frozen, powerless, eyes wide with disbelief. Above, a single voice whispered through every comm channel, smooth and venomous. Asset 734. Stand down. Submit. Vance. The words were chains of fire. Zarya screamed, her golden eyes dimming, pupils dilating as the kill switch seized her mind. Her tail thrashed, her armor cracked under the strain, and for the first time the Empress who had cowed galaxies looked small, trapped. And in the silence between her screams, humanity moved. Owen staggered forward. His knees buckled, his breath came ragged, but his voice was iron. "Look at me, Zarya." Her head snapped toward him, trembling, half feral, half broken. Her teeth bared, but the sound that came was not a growl, it was a sob. Owen fell to his knees before her, pressing his hands against her face, forcing her to see him. His voice cut through the storm, low but unyielding. "Remember who you are. You are not their weapon. You are mine. You are ours." The kill switch fought harder, glowing lines of crimson crawling across her skin like molten veins. She howled, clutching his wrists with strength that could have crushed bone. But Owen did not flinch. He held on, pouring every memory, every ounce of love into her trembling form. He whispered of the nights under leaking roofs, of the taste of broth, of the first word she had ever read. He whispered the name he had given her, the name no empire could erase. Zarya. Her body convulsed once more, then stilled. The crimson veins flickered, sputtered, and shattered like glass. Her eyes snapped open, blazing gold, brighter than the fleets above. With a roar that split the heavens, she ripped the invisible leash apart. The psychic kill switch screamed through the airwaves and died, its echo collapsing into silence. And when the silence fell, the Empress rose. Her soldiers dropped to their knees, not in fear, but in awe. The colonists gasped, some crying, some laughing in disbelief. For the first time, the Empress did not stand as a ruler above them, but as one of them. She raised her hand. The ground shook as her warship, the Vengeance, roared to life. Obsidian hulls shimmered as cloaked ships broke the atmosphere, swarming to her side. "Prepare for war," she said, her voice sharp, steady, unbreakable. The people cheered, not because they believed they could win, but because at that moment they believed in her. The battle ignited. The skies became fire. Vance's fleet rained plasma on the colony, scorching craters into the earth. But humanity did not scatter. They fought. Farmers turned engineers, wielding salvaged railguns and jury-rigged defenses. Colonists loaded children into bunkers and returned with weapons in trembling hands. Zarya led the charge, her ship carved through the enemy's front line, her claws tearing apart boarding parties that dared breach her command.
Survivors wandered the ruins in silence, tending to the injured, whispering the names of those lost. And in the center of it all stood Zarya. Her once radiant armor was cracked, scorched, nearly unrecognizable. Her claws still trembled from the battle, but her eyes burned with a fire the galaxy had never seen. She was alive, but not untouched. Something inside her had shattered. At her feet lay Owen's insignia, a simple patch from the old colony guard, the last thing left of him. She held it gently, as though it were more fragile than glass, and for the first time since her ascension, tears carved lines down her battle-hardened face. The colonists gathered around her, unsure if she was ruler or kin, savior or stranger. Then she raised the patch high for all to see. "This," she said, her voice breaking but unyielding, "is the price of freedom. Not crowns, not empires, not chains of blood. A human gave his life so that I could stand here free. Remember him. Remember them." Her soldiers dropped to one knee. The colonists followed, not in submission, but in shared grief, shared reverence. For in that moment, the galaxy's Empress was no longer just an alien sovereign. She was the living bridge between two worlds. Word spread like fire through the stars. The corporate fleets had been broken. Their flagship was annihilated, their kill switch undone. Rumors whispered through markets, spaceports, backwater moons. The humans, the weak, scattered species no one had feared, had stood against the most ruthless machine in the galaxy, and won. Not by out